You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm Carolyn Schnare, and I'm joined by my co-host, Frank Gleeson. Hey, Frank.
Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm doing great. So on the show, we have the opportunity to speak with convenience industry leaders from all around the world, and I'm excited to speak with one who has had a distinguished career in convenience, food service, and more. We're going to talk with Darren Rebelez, CEO of Casey's.
Hey, I'm Frank Gleeson. I want to tell you something important. There are so many industry events to attend, it's so hard to decide which ones to go to. I attended Invenco by GVR's Retail Technology Conference in Europe last year. I tell you, it was an absolute game changer. The energy, the insights, connections I made were absolutely incredible. Soon I'll be attending Invenco by GVR's RTC event in the US, and I'm really excited about that. From March 31st to April 3rd, Chicago will be buzzing with the best minds in convenience retail. Registration closes soon, so sign up today. Visit rtc.invenco.com for more information. And hopefully I'll see you all there.
So how you doing today, Frank? Anything new in your world? Where are you?
I'm great. I'm on my road travels again, Carol. I'm down in Tucson, Arizona at the Connexus conference, just to have a look, see what's going on in the digital transformation and convenience. So it's been a very interesting few days here.
Oh, how many times have you heard the word AI?
Oh, yeah. We've seen a few of those presentations, all right. And, no one's figured out how we're going to put it in our business yet, though.
Well, no one really knows what to do with it either, but we're gonna make it work. So I'm sure it won't be the last time you hear that word today, or a phrase, I should say. So, Frank, I'm really excited about our guest today, Darren Rebelez. So I don't usually go deep into biographies, but I really think I'd be remiss if I didn't just list off a few of the companies and teams that Darren has led in his distinguished career. A graduate of West Point Military Academy, Darren served as an Army officer, earned his MBA, led teams at PepsiCo, multiple convenience and fuel retailers, and the last 5 years as president and CEO of Casey's General Stores. Darren, thank you for your service, and thank you for being a guest on our show.
Yeah, thanks, Carolyn, and great to be here, and great to see you and Frank again.
That's great, Darren. Delighted to get a chance to talk to you. I know it's a few years since we've met in person, but as always in these kind of conversations and podcasts, we like to talk first about the leader's journey, where you started, what companies you worked with, who did you learn these your leadership skills from, and what made you the leader that you are today in terms of the industry.
Sure. I've been fortunate. I've been able to work at a number of different places and got a number of different experiences. I'd say really the foundation of my career and my leadership experience really started at West Point. And really, while it's very focused academically on engineering and humanities, I would say it's really a leadership school that surrounds itself with all that other stuff. And so that was really the foundation of my leadership experience, and has served me well throughout my career. As you mentioned, I was in the Army right after West Point, served for a number of years, and then decided to get out and try my hand in the civilian world. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and was able to interview with a lot of different companies, and ended up in the restaurant business. Back then, PepsiCo owned KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, which are the Yum brands now. But back then it was PepsiCo, and so I am a PepsiCo alum of some sorts, and cut my teeth in the restaurant business. Was a restaurant manager, a training instructor, a market manager, and kind of moved up through those ranks, and then was recruited into the convenience store industry from the restaurant business from one of my former bosses, and I started off as the quote unquote food guy. I was supposed to help this company, Thornton Oil, to get into the food service business in a more sophisticated way. And so it tells you how long the industry has been working on trying to get food service right. And I've always said it's one of the most challenging aspects of the business, because unlike restaurants, there's a lot of other things going on in a convenience store that don't have anything to do with food, and you really have to put a lot of attention behind the food business if you want to do it right. So I then had the opportunity to go to work for ExxonMobil, and really learned a lot about the fuel business in that company, and a fantastic company, great people, great leaders, and but they were decidedly making a move to move away from the direct retail business, and so I decided I wanted to stay with the industry and stay in retail, and had the opportunity to go to 7-Eleven, where I was the chief operating officer there for a little over 7 years. And that was a great experience as well, rounding out my convenience store knowledge and experience, and touched a lot of facets of that business over that period of time. And then decided at some point I wanted to run my own company, and had that opportunity with IHOP restaurants. And it was kind of fun because it was an opportunity for me to get back into the restaurant business, which I really hadn't given a lot of thought about, but fantastic brand, great folks over there too, and had a lot of fun in that job. And then finally, a recruiter called me and said that they had the perfect job for me. And I'd heard that before, but in this case, it really was. You know, the team at Casey's, the previous CEO was retiring, and the board decided that they wanted to try to find somebody from outside the company to be their next leader. And this was really, to me, the culmination of all of my experiences, my food experience, my fuel experience, and my convenience experience, all coming together in one. And I couldn't have been more honored to have the opportunity to lead this company. And it's been a blast. It's been the best job of my career.
I completely agree with you, Darren. I mean, I just, the rattling off the companies you've worked with, and, all of them are complementary skills to the job that you're doing today. And I think whoever that recruiter was or whoever hired you, they made a huge and brilliant decision for Casey's because, it's been transformed in the last 5 years in my mind. It's become a real powerhouse in the US and one to watch because, food services at its core, plus your results. I mean, I just had a look back in 24. You've really made an impact. That strategy you put in place, the team you put in place has just driven the numbers to record levels, which, you and the team should take great credit for that. It's been a tremendous journey for you.
Well, it's certainly been all about the team, and we're very blessed. We have a fantastic team. We got really strong leaders at every level of the organization, and they're executing at a very high level. And so, thank you, Frank, for those kind words. Um, we we take a lot of pride in doing what we do and doing it at a high level, and so I think after a lot of hard work, the results are coming, and it's always fun when you get to see the fruits of your labor come to life.
Yeah, I've always felt kind of the biggest decisions as a CEO you make are the people you hire. And if you can get the right talent and give them the right strategy, the rest kind of looks after itself, really, Darren, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's always been my philosophy. Just find the best people you can, give them the support they need, point them in the right direction, then just get the hell out of the way and let them do
Yeah.
what they do. And that's the approach we take here, and it's working well so far.
So when I kind of chat a little bit about food, all we notice is the whole industry has changed utterly in the last 20 years from when you started to it really feels like food is at the core. We're using phrases like food venience now, where literally the customers are coming in and they're instead of going to a QSR where you might have been in the past in IHOP, they're actually coming into Casey's to buy their food products because they trust you. The quality is there, the service is there, the convenience is there, and you got a whole lot of other stuff. So tell us a little bit about how important food is in your program and what are you guys doing to drive that customer satisfaction?
Well, food service for us is number one. It is the most important thing, and I like to say we all of the categories are important. We love all our children equally, um, but we do have a favorite, and it's our food service. And um, our food is our single biggest differentiator. And when you think about convenience stores, outside of prepared foods, a lot of us sell a lot of the same products. Now,
Yeah.
I think depending on the quality of your merchants, sometimes you have a better assortment than others, and there's a lot of things you can do inside of that grocery assortment to differentiate yourself. We can talk about some of those things that we've done, but really, the food is the single biggest differentiator, and it drives frequency as well. Um, when I talk to investors a lot, they think that all the traffic comes to the store because of fuel, and then people kind of stumble into the store and buy something occasionally. And that's just not the way it works for us. Food is what drives people into the store, and then everything else builds around that. And about 3/4 of our transactions at Casey's don't even have a fuel purchase associated with it. So people are coming to us. People eat or drink 3, 4, 5 times a day, and so we need to capture our share of those visits. And so we put a lot of effort in the food. And if there's one thing that I've learned about being in the restaurant business, it's that the food has to be the star. You
Yeah.
have to have the product right. And it doesn't matter how cheap it is. It doesn't matter um, how well you market it. If the food isn't good, people aren't going to buy it. And as simple as that sounds, it's quite complex to actually deliver that. And so we put a lot of effort and a lot of pride into the quality of our food. And our pizza is made from scratch. We make dough fresh in every single store. And that takes a lot of effort. And
Mm.
I've had a line of suppliers out of this building offering to take that complexity away and to move it upstream, and we can go to all kinds of different product. And we're just not going to do it. We're not going to sacrifice that quality. We use 100% whole milk mozzarella cheese. Nobody does that anymore in the pizza business because it's more expensive. We're not going to change that. And we know it costs more, but that's where the flavor comes. That's the differentiator. And so there's some things that we just draw the line on and hold that bar really high on quality. And I think the results speak for themselves. The people appreciate the product, they appreciate the quality, and they keep coming back for it.
Well, I see you're the official pizza and beer headquarters. So I mean, you've earned the title and the place to go for sure.
Well, and that was something that we're still trying to crack the code on, to be quite honest with you. And Frank, you mentioned earlier, we have all this food that we sell, but we have all the other stuff as well. And
Yeah.
when we look at competition in the pizza business, we look at the national brands of pizza competitors. We're really not looking at convenience stores.
Yeah.
And so when we compare ourselves to those national brands, they do a nice job on pizza, but you can't buy a 6-pack of beer with your pizza.
No.
You can't
Yeah.
get a 12-pack. You can't get a lot of it. You can't get a pint of ice cream for dessert either. You can do all those things at a Casey's. And so we're really putting a lot of effort into trying to open up the assortment to the pizza consumer and let them know that you can do a lot in one purchase with Casey's.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think the opportunity for adjacent purchases with a food product, you've got it. And by positioning like that, it feels like it's right, Darren. It feels like your consumers will buy into it. And then the ability to give them hot pizza, cold beer, you're gonna become their favorite pretty quickly.
Well, it's a natural combination. So yeah, we're still building on that, but we think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. So let's chat about the kind of the execution people side, because, I'm sure you're a firm believer, our frontline associates are the most important people in our business. And, our job is to make sure they've got the tools, skills, training, and the support of us as senior leaders. How important are, the human capital in your business? What do you see when you go around the stores, and how do you drive that passion for Casey's and passion for serving customers with your teams?
Yeah, you're right, Frank. It is the most critical component of our business. If you look at the composition of our team, we have 46,000 team members in our company. About
Wow.
44,000 of them work in our stores. And so, if there's anything we put some focus on outside of our food, it's our people, and particularly in the stores. And uh, you know, we've spent a lot of time working on our values, our Casey's Cares values: commitment, authenticity, respect, evolving, and service. And when we did that, we didn't do what I think a lot of companies make the mistake of, is they get a couple executives in a room, they brainstorm for a couple hours and come up with some set of values, and then they plaster it everywhere. We kind of went the opposite way. We enlisted the help of some outside folks, and went to every part of our business. We did focus groups with team members in our stores. We did surveys. We went to our distribution centers. We went to every part of our business and asked our team members what was most important to them. What did they feel motivated by? What were they passionate about with respect to Casey's? And that was how we built those values, is from the ground up, really listening to our team members in the stores, in our distribution centers, and really creating a set of values that we all felt were important for us to be successful. And so it's really resonated well. And we hold ourselves accountable to that. That's part of our performance management process. When we evaluate a person's performance, it's not just on the results that they deliver, but it's on how they live the values. And you have to be able to do both here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, again, a store manager in one of your stores makes such a difference. If he's living your values, then the team feel, as part of a team, obviously, and they'll follow the company and the leader into battle, which, going back to your West Point days, creating that followership creates, that commitment, loyalty, and, that extra little bit of discretionary kind of effort that the teams can give. If they believe things, they'll give it.
And we put a lot of effort behind really listening to those team members in the stores. And, a couple examples of that, we stood up a frontline advisory board, we call it, which is we have 4 different operating divisions, and we take 3 team members from store managers from each division. And so we have a group of 12 folks that come into our store support center once a quarter, and they just share with us what's working in the stores, what's not working in the stores. And we have a team that works with them to capture all those items and solve those problems. If they say something's getting in the way, we go out and try to fix that for them to make their job easier. On top of that, we have a continuous improvement team that sole purpose is to go into stores and try to make the job of a team member easier to execute. In some cases, that's moving work upstream. In other cases, that's just eliminating it altogether, or finding a different way of doing it where it's easier. And as a result of that, we've been able to reduce our same store labor hours for 8 consecutive quarters. But at the same time, our team member engagement scores have gone up and our guest satisfaction scores have gone up. And because at the same time that we're removing some labor, we're leaving some extra labor in the store as well in the form of slack. So the team member actually feels like they're not working as hard, and yet they have less hours to do the work because we've eliminated the work. And so it's made us a more efficient organization, but at the same time, more effective organization, delivering a better experience to the guest and a better team member experience, which has resulted in reduced turnover, which, as you know, is key to a lot of things in our business.
Yeah, I was listening to some updates here yesterday, and some of the kind of mid and lower tier stores and convenience stores have significantly high turnover, which must be hurting their kind of service quality and just even the cost and productivity. So, I completely get what you're saying. Keep the people right, and then allow them drive that productivity for you, which ultimately will improve your bottom line. And which, I think you broke some records this year in terms of EBITDA, Darren. So well done, congrats, or 24.
Well, and that's been a big part of that is getting that turnover under control. And we all experience some tough turnover years during COVID for obvious reasons, and we just knew we couldn't continue on that way, and so we really put a lot of effort behind that. And as just getting that turnover down, everybody gets better at their job. And so we've identified for Casey's, when a store manager hits that 3-year mark in their store, that's when all the magic happens. That's when the team member turnover reduces, guest satisfaction scores improve, everything happens. So that's a big marker for us, a big internal metric, and we put a lot of effort behind that to make that happen.
So, Darren, one of the things that I've known Casey's for is the work with community and communities around you. I know you work very closely with veterans organizations, classrooms, schools, education, and food insecurity. So that, I'm sure, inherently ties in with how valuable the people you work with feel in their, not only where they live, where they work, with the people that are visiting every day. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that giving back, that community sense, is important to Casey's?
Yeah, it's really critical for us, and it goes all the way back to our founder and Don Lamberti, who's still with us, and I get to see him occasionally, and he's a great guy. And but he started Casey's from store number one in a small town called Boone, Iowa. And as he said it, as he tells the story, I mean, he's a very humble man, but I asked him, how did he figure this all out? And he said, well, we just built a store in Boone and it did really well. And I went down to the next town over and it looked like they could use one too. And so we built another one there and that worked out well. So then I went to the next town over. The rest is history. Um, but really, what he identified was that these small towns and rural communities just had an untapped or unmet need for convenience and for the food that we offered, for the merchandise that we offered, and so we would go into these small towns and build these stores. But in a small town, everybody knows everybody, and you just can't show up like the big corporate giant and impose your will on people. I mean, you have to engage in the community. And so that's vital for us. And that's just part of our DNA now. And so our store managers are fantastic at this. They do a lot of it on their own. And of course, we have our own programs at the corporate level that we rally everybody behind. But, when we look at our geography, the things that really matter to the folks that live in our communities are our education, for sure. And we have a great way through our Cash for Classrooms initiative to be able to support local schools in those communities. And, every small town, you may not have certain things, but every small town has schools. And so it's a great way for us to engage in those communities. And, one of the unique things about our rewards program that ties into that is that you accumulate points on our rewards program, and you can use those points for fuel or for food or for merchandise. But if you don't want to do any of those things, you can take those points and donate them to the local school in your community. So on the app,
cool.
You can select any school in our geography, and you can donate those points or the cash equivalent to those schools. So
wow, specifically, that's so cool.
Specifically, yeah, you can
Neat.
go on and pick the school. And so some schools engage with us to try to get more membership and try to direct all those points to the school. And
that's brilliant
on
so many levels.
But it's a great way for everyone to engage. It can be our team members or it can be our guests. Food insecurity is another one that, unfortunately, here we are in the Midwest where all the food is made and we still have challenges with food insecurity. And so we've partnered with Feeding America and, somewhere around 54, 55 food banks throughout our footprint to be able to support them and support the needs in our communities with food. And then lastly, supporting veterans and first responders. And we're partnered up with two great organizations, the Children of Fallen Patriots, that provides college scholarships for children who have lost a parent in the line of duty. And then Hope for the Warriors, that really provides an entire suite of services for our veterans across the board. And so they're very complementary, with Fallen Patriots taking care of the children, and then Hope for the Warriors taking care of the veterans themselves and their families. So it really resonates with our guests, and our guests like to be engaged with those efforts as well. And so, our purpose is to make life better for our communities and guests every day. And so that's really the bow that we put around all of this. And we feel like we're making an impact.
Love it.
Yeah, it feels like your customers do too, Darren. I mean, you've got nearly 8 million loyal customers in your program. I mean, that's just phenomenal to be able to get that level of engagement, and then obviously be able to talk to them and, reward them for their loyalty and their commitment to your business.
Yeah, it's we got a great great group of fans, and it's building all the time. We launched that rewards program, just 5 years ago
Yeah.
at our investor day, right before COVID hit, and
Wow.
uh, and so so it's been 5 years and we've been able to build up that 8 million members, and we're on a pretty steady cadence of adding about 100,000 a month
Wow.
to the program, and so as people find out about it, they join, and I think it goes back to um, the utility of the points where most
Yeah.
rewards programs, if you're with another pizza company and you get
Yeah.
their rewards, you can buy pizza.
Hmm.
You can buy anything you want with
Yeah.
Casey's rewards, and so it gives guests a lot of flexibility that I think they appreciate.
I completely agree. Just want to change kind of tack a little bit, Darren. So looking out for the next maybe 3 to 5 years, what challenge do you see for the industry, fuel industry, convenience food industry, and, how are you thinking about it and how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things going on in our industry that are important. Obviously, a new administration first and foremost. It's been a busy 10 days, I guess, now, and there's been a lot going on. So I think for all of us, and this isn't exclusive to convenience retail. This is all of retail, all of business right now. I think just understanding where potential changes could come in, and what impact that may have on our business. And I think specifically for the convenience store industry, there could be some good things, there could be some not so good things. And so I think it's just incumbent on all of us to just keep an eye on the ball and continue to monitor what's going on, make sure we're nimble to respond to whatever it is that we may have to deal with that way. Outside of that, I think there's a few more macro trends that we all are dealing with. The decline of the cigarette category
Yeah.
has been a big one, and that decline in combustibles is accelerating. Now, fortunately for us at Casey's, because we have such a big food business, we're not as heavily reliant on the cigarette category as maybe some others in our industry are. And so as we see that shift happening, it hasn't had the impact on us that it has on others, at least to the same degree. And the industry is shifting over to nicotine alternatives, which seem to be gaining some traction, and so that part's working out. But it's a migration, and so I think managing that transition is going to be important for everybody in the industry. With fuel's becoming a more challenging category, and although on the margin side, it's certainly made a step change improvement since pre-COVID. Demand has been down, and that there's a number of reasons for that, between remote work, just simply improve fuel efficiency of the car park overall. So, how do we continue to evolve and stay relevant and drive traffic to our stores in the face of declining fuel and cigarette volume, which historically drove a lot of traffic to our stores? And I think that's where, again, for Casey's, that's where our food plays a significant role. That's the differentiator. That's what keeps people coming back.
Yeah, no, listen, I'd agree with you. I mean, I think there's just a transition on nicotine. My sense is that we're going to move from cigarettes into other delivery methods, whether it's as in or an eye close. And I've been watching the global market, Darren. It's happening, and it's a good transition, provided obviously, stuff is properly regulated, and we control the age restriction through, either true age or something that makes sense for making sure the right people get the product, and we make sure there's no onward selling. So I think our industry has been a very responsible retailer of age-related products, and I think we should continue and will continue to be the place where people can get legal products safely.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm really hopeful that with this new administration that maybe they step up the enforcement and some of the illegal activity that's going on there, because you're right, the majority of our industry is very responsible, and I mean we've been doing this forever, so we know how to age verify and we know how to sell age restricted products responsibly. And I think we just need a little help in the enforcement side for those bad actors that are they're they're doing it the wrong way to hold them accountable.
Yeah. No, I think we are. I mean, as an industry, I've never seen, obviously through NACS and, that global efforts, everyone is just on the same page, which is really helpful because then we're able to talk to government or regulators around what we think is good for everybody, and obviously we've got to do our piece too, which is making sure that the enforcement or the point of sale moment is right, which I think we do.
That's right.
Um, Thinking then, my sense is, I would have expected gasoline or diesel sales to decline faster. It just hasn't right now. The question that's in my head is, even with the evolution of more efficient engines, it's still holding up, and they're still drilling for more oil. I think carbon fuels are going to be around for a while. I mean, this electrification thing isn't going to happen anytime soon in a lot of your markets because, let's be honest, you're traveling bigger distances and there's this range anxiety and the risk around if something happens, a storm in Florida or something, and all the electricity's out. How are you going to fuel your car? So I think it'll be a longer change or transition, and perhaps it might not even happen in the US. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be a long transition, and I think the hype cycle is past now. Where
Yeah,
a few years ago, I would get asked by investors what we were going to do to get out of the fuel business because everything was going to be electric, and it just the math never supported it. We even took a trip to Norway, and because we wanted to see what the future might look like, and you know, even the Norwegians said it was going to be a long time, and they're much further ahead than everyone else. And so I think we took a more pragmatic approach to that whole issue. And you're right. I think where the industry is going now is more hybrid.
yeah,
And Toyota's always been there, and I
yeah,
think the rest of the world caught up to them, and now it just makes sense. You get the fuel efficiency and cleaner
yeah.
engines that you're looking for. You don't have to build the infrastructure to support it. They're more affordable than the electric vehicle. So for a whole host of reasons, I think hybrid is where we're going to end up. And so um, that that increased fuel efficiency will put some pressure on demand, but it won't eliminate demand.
Yeah, it's good for our industry. I mean, if you think about that, one of our biggest categories looks reasonably robust in the foreseeable future. Our convenience categories, although there's transition, it's still holding. And then you're playing food service, which I think is an expandable consumption opportunity, particularly when you can grab some market share from the QSRs, who I think are going to struggle a little bit with their kind of one brand offer, where you've got multiple brands or a lot of different products that they sell in your stores.
Yeah, that's right. We like the spot we're in, and again, that breadth of assortment and the level of convenience that provides when you can do one-stop shopping, and it's easier to get in and out. And frankly, we've been able to manage price better, I think, because we have the broader assortment. And so, relative to a lot of QSRs who took a lot of price over the last couple of years, I mean,
Yeah.
not only is our quality on par, but it's a lot more affordable.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think, the interesting thing I've noticed, Aaron, is, that price, elasticity relative to volume. Our industry, convenience store industry, is better placed because we've got a broader place to price our overhead, which means we don't have to pass it all on to the consumer in a way that a Starbucks or one of the QSRs. So we have a really strong competitive advantage. And I think the consumers are buying into that because I can see like for likes are holding better in our industry than they are in the QSR industry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, like one of the things I've said over and over again, we're fueling the world, right? Whether it's in the car or in your stomach. So keep doing it.
That's
Keep
right.
doing what you're doing there. Stay the official pizza and beer headquarters of the U.S. at this point. Keep going. Just see on this side of the world over here on the East Coast.
So Darren, I have a question for you then on that. So as you think about growth, right? So obviously, you're going to hit probably 3,000 stores sometime this year. What's your approach to growth? Whether it's new to industry, acquisition, international. Can you give us a sneak preview? Nothing that's too controversial, just kind of stuff that might be out there, or just give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, from a growth perspective, we have a pretty simple algorithm for our for growing the business overall. And so we target 8 to 10% EBITDA growth per year, every year, or as a CAGR. And that puts us, if we achieve that, and we have over the last 5 years, that puts us in the top quintile of the S&P 500 retail index. So we think that's a pretty high bar, and that's where we expect to perform at. And so to achieve that, we look at it pretty simply. We need to grow the base business 4% per year, and we need to add 4% new units every year. And so that the composition of those new units are going to be a combination of new to industry and acquisition. And so we start off every year thinking that's going to be a 50-50 split. Now, the reality of it is acquisitions can be a little bit lumpy. And so sometimes you have big years like this past year where we bought a 200 store chain. Well, then that changes the math a little bit. But we like the ability to do both, because what I've seen over the years is that the serial acquirers, when multiples are favorable for buying, then they grow a lot. When they're unfavorable, then they shut down. Yeah. And we don't ever want to be in that spot. We want to be able to deliver quality, consistent growth over time. And so we don't ever want to be in a position where we can't grow because multiples are too high, or we feel like we have to pay too much for an acquisition to be able to get that growth. So, so it kind of comes and goes. And we've had a lot of good success on the acquisition front. The multiples have been more reasonable. And so we've leaned a little heavier that way. We certainly have a pipeline and the ability to lean heavier the other way. But we do both. And so in terms of the prospects, we think they're just phenomenal. I mean, if you look at our 2,900 stores in our 20 states that we operate in, 2,000 of the 2,900 are in only 6 states. And so there's tremendous white space just in the states that we're already in to continue to grow. And then certainly we can radiate out from there. But we think there's a lot of value in building brand awareness in geography. So we're always, for organic growth and small deal M&A, we're always going to focus on those markets that we're already in and have a presence. And then for the larger deals, we get a little more flexible because we'll be buying some scale. And so the recent Fikes wholesale acquisition was a good example. We wanted to be in Texas. We had done a smaller acquisition of 22 stores late last year, and then or late 23. And then we had the opportunity to add another 150 stores with the Fikes acquisition in Texas. So now we have 175 stores in a state that 18 months ago we had none. And so, and as you know, Texas is so big, and we could put 1,000 stores in Texas.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question about international, I don't really need to go international at the moment. I've got plenty of room here in the U.S. to grow.
Very cool. Well, Darren, thank you so much for your time today. And Frank, you as well. It's been wonderful really learning so much about Casey's, about you and your journey. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. It was great getting to talk with you guys again. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
So listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Darren, Frank, again, I appreciate your time. And go ahead and subscribe. You'll get our next great show that comes out in 2 more weeks. And thank you all for listening to The Future of Convenience.
You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Learn more at globalconveniencestorefocus.co.uk.